Hey yo, what is up? We are looking at the Kampfpanzer 07RH mission reward tank. This is the reward tank you will get when you participate in the marathon starting from today to the 31st of the end of the month. And we are now actually looking at the 3D skin that is part of the reward. Well, after you get the tank, you have to do some set of missions in order to get this skin at a discounted price or something. So this is the 3D skin on the free tank. The 3D skin is not free, but let's go straight to the gameplay and stats. Alright, here we are. As usual, I bring you my first game in the tank, and already I'm liking this this map, because somehow I hate this map but I do really well in this map, so I know I'm gonna win for some reason. But let's get straight into the stats and what this tank is going to bring about. This is of course a medium tank, but it's a medium tank that wants to be a light tank. It is definitely not a light tank that wants to be a medium tank. Immediately I am taking into a position where I can spot and get some early damage, so that's exactly what I'm going to do. And I'm going to fire at that Pantera down there for a little bit of damage. But let's take a look at the stats on this tank. This tank has standard shell penetration, 205 millimeters of penetration. Of course, this tank is a medium tank, so the hit points are 1350, just like a T-44-100. SU-130 PM blind fires me, I blind fire him back, and I actually made that shot and I did a little bit of damage on him. But yeah, let's continue looking at the stats. We have 205 millimeters of penetration on the standard AP shells. The premium shells are 255 penetration, which are heat, but the shell velocity is really slow, so it's kind of good but it's kind of bad at the same time. You just have to get used to that shell velocity and play around with it, and then maybe it'll be okay. 65 kilometers an hour going forward, 25 going backwards. It has 700 horsepower. Of course, if you compare this to a T-44-100, T-44-100 has 760 horsepower, but about the same HPT or power to weight ratio, 23.33. The T-44-100 has around 22, 23 power to weight ratio as well. As the traverse speed on this tank, 57.37. But I'll be honest with you, after driving this tank in this terrain, I don't feel that the agility is as good as the T-44-100, and one of the reasons why is because of the crossing capacity or the terrain resistance, which you won't get these stats unless you look into Tanks GG and look into the hidden stats, and that's when you find out that the crossing capacity or the terrain resistance on this tank isn't that great. So when you hit water, when you hit muddy terrain, when you try to go down 1-2 line in the Lakeville map, it is really boggy and muddy down there. It'll slow the tank down a lot. When you're crossing water, it's going to slow the tank down a lot. So in terms of agility, it feels like a T-44-100, except when you hit rough terrain, that's when it's going to be really bad. Now I decide to blind fire here because I know all the TDs are there. If you look at the stats, you can see the ISU is there, 130 PM is there, there is an ST Emil there as well, there's a Super Hellcat that is going to be there as well. So yeah, I'm thinking about what I want to do. I think I want to leave this position, maybe go somewhere else. But let's get back to the stats. Let's go to the armor. There is no armor on this tank, so let's not talk about the armor. Just pretend that this is a light tank and there is no armor in this tank. Reload time 4.79 seconds. Now this is really quick reload time, and in a situation like this, I don't like to put rammers into this tank, but if you do want to put rammers in this tank, you will bring the reload down to 4.31 instead of 4.79, which is not a lot. But if you add vents into the rammer as well as a vertical stabilizer, you can get that reload down to 3.8 seconds. And if you run purple equipment or bond equipment, you can get it down to 3.7 seconds if that is your thing. But in my opinion, tanks that reload in 5 seconds, I don't run rammers in them. So instead, I'm going to run optics and max my view range out to 500 meters. So I've got optics, I've got rammers, and I've got vertical stabilizers. If you want to play this with a rammer and Bond vertical stabilizers, that is up to you. It is not bad at all. In fact, a lot of good players will be running those kind of equipment as well and forego the optics equipment because they rather have that DPM and rather have that rate of fire instead of the extended view range. So to each his own. There is no wrong, there is no right. But anyway, let's continue down. 200 damage. This is a really, small puny gun. 200 damage, but you do fire very quickly, so that is what you got to look forward to. Fast firing gun. Instead of firing twice, instead of firing once, you fire twice, and you do 400 damage. So that is what you get. Gun depression 9 degrees. It's pretty good, which means you can work off a ridge. The only problem is there is no turret armor. So if you want to use your turret to maybe bounce a little bit from your enemy when you poke over a ridge, that's not going to work. You are going to take damage. So fighting off a ridge is not an option here. So even though you have 9 degrees of gun depression, it's really hard to work on top of a ridge and relying on that turret armor. So don't do it at all. Don't peek with over a ridge with this tank. This tank is not made for that. Now the shell velocity, I was telling you, 962 on standard AP shells, which is why you're going to see a lot of people just shooting AP shells most of the time unless they are forced to fire premium shells on tier 9 tanks, tier 10 tanks. 870 meters per second on that heat shells, really slow. The good thing is your aim time is 1.44 seconds. It is absolutely amazing. Really quick aim time, and your dispersion there 0.34. Not the greatest. It's borderline derpy dispersion, which is why I prefer that you want to run vents in order to bring that dispersion down to, you can get it down to 0.31, 0.30 if you have a BIA, if you have food, if you have vents, you can bring that dispersion down, and then the gun starts to work well. Moving dispersion as well, 0.13. What is moving dispersion? That is what your vertical stabilizers work for. It'll make that moving dispersion slightly smaller, so you will aim you will fully aim quicker when you use a vertical stabilizer. Moving dispersion 0.13, you can totally bring it down to 0.10 or 0.09 if you are running a Bond vertical stabilizer and Bond vents. It really works well, which means you firing on the move auto aim, it's going to work really well. Who is this tank for, and do you actually want this tank? Yes, this tank, a lot of people are going to say this tank is going to work really well for good players. Good players are going to do really well with this tank, and bad players not so much. But I'm going to argue with you, if you are not an experienced player, if you are a new player, this is the tank for you. Why am I saying this is the tank for you? This is a tank that you are going to improve your gameplay in. Why? This tank is actually a medium tank that wants to be a light tank. It has all the qualities of a light tank, and it has a little bit of that medium tank play. So if you are a new player, if you are an inexperienced player, and if you are trying to migrate your gameplay, trying to up your level, if you're trying to improve yourself, moving on from the heavy tank to the medium tank, and then now you want to take up the challenge of light tank gameplay. Of course, light tank gameplay is the best gameplay, the most satisfying gameplay, the gameplay that takes you up to the next level. This is a great transition tank from medium tank transition to a light tank gameplay. This tank will teach you a lot of things about how to play light tanks, how to move around like a light tank, while offering you a little bit of protection as a medium tank with that, a little bit of hull armor, a little bit of gun depression. Oh, I died there from the shotgun on the M12, but that's okay. I'm pretty happy for my first game. Only 1,800 damage, but I did land that blind shot on the SU 130 PM, so I did do about 1,900 damage or 2,000 damage or whatever. But and this is my opinion on this tank. I think this tank will be really good for good players. Obviously, good players are going to do really well with medium tanks that have great mobility. But like I said, this tank is going to work really well for those new players as well as inexperienced players, players that are looking to up their game and move on to the next level, transition to light tank gameplay and take their games to a whole new level, discover a whole new way to play this game with mobile fast tanks and quick firing guns. This tank will be the perfect tank to do it. The Kampfpanzer 07 RH, kind of like a medium tank that wants to be a light tank. What do you think about it? Leave a comment in the comment section below, and I hope you took some good information out of this gameplay. There are my results. My first game got a 3rd class, 1999 damage, got 2 kills. I landed a lot of these shots. Out of those 15 shots, I hit 11, and out of those 11, I penned 10. Those were standard AP shells, so that was pretty good. Didn't make use much of my optics there because I only got 178 assisted damage with those optics. Thanks for watching. I will see you on the next video. Bye bye.